This is how we should have ended the finale.
Oh my God, you're right. How did we not think of that?
Just ask the producers of shows like Lost, Dexter, or Game of Thrones, and they'll tell you, endings are hard. But long before any of those shows delivered their unpopular conclusions, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David were getting pummeled for the underwhelming series finale of the hit sitcom Seinfeld. And while neither of them ever seemed overly concerned by the negative reactions, based on the series finale of Curb Your Enthusiasm, we're thinking they definitely learned their lesson.
I'm 76 years old, and I have never learned a lesson in my entire life. Ho-ho!
Do you think that's helping?
I do.
Seinfeld first aired on NBC July 5th, 1989. Originally titled The Seinfeld Chronicles, it was based on the life and career of comedian Jerry Seinfeld. The series was co-created by Jerry and Larry David, a veteran writer-performer of comedy sketch shows like Saturday Night Live.
Was I really a writer on Saturday Night Live?
Yes, Larry, you were. You wrote here for one season.
Who also served as the inspiration for the character of George Costanza. Like Jerry, Larry was a comedian, and the two had similar senses of humor. But whereas Jerry's sensibilities tended to be lighthearted and observational, Larry gravitated toward the type of extreme social awkwardness that we now know as cringe comedy.
How is it you're not taken?
I'm sort of engaged.
Both elements would become integral to the series they co-created, and with Jerry as the star and Larry as the showrunner, that series would go on to be one of the most popular and successful sitcoms in history. But that success proved to be a double-edged sword, and Larry eventually became concerned that the quality of the writing would inevitably dip. At the end of the 7th season, he departed the show, leaving Jerry in creative control. Larry stuck around to voice the reoccurring character of Yankees owner George Steinbrenner, but without him, the writing lost its dark, grounded edge, and the storylines grew wackier and less cohesive, and that's probably one of the reasons why when it came time to write the series finale, Jerry asked Larry to return. When it came to developing the last story, Jerry would later recall, "We didn't want to do another episode as much as we wanted to have everybody come back to the show we had so much fun with." To that end, it was decided that the final episode, titled The Finale, would find the characters being put on trial. Beloved guest stars would then return to be witnesses against them. After an episode-length clip show, the finale began with Jerry and George learning that the series they created together had been picked up by NBC. The four main characters decided to celebrate by taking a trip to France, but on the way, their plane is diverted to the fictional town of Latham, Massachusetts. While there, the four witness a mugging, during which they openly mock the victim and make no effort to intervene.
Well, there goes the money for the lipo.
As such, they're all arrested, charged, and ultimately convicted of violating a local Good Samaritan law. It was a weird plot, but it wasn't quite as out there as it sounds. The series had always reveled in the pettiness of its characters, and the final story's unexpected darkness was exactly the type of comedy Larry was most famous for. But that didn't mean audiences were on board. In fact, despite being among the most watched series finales in the history of television, with over 76 million viewers, fans mostly hated it. There are several reasons for that. For example, as many have pointed out in the years since, the Seinfeld finale didn't really give its stars much to do in the way of being funny, making it a mediocre episode when it came to what kept fans tuning in all those years. And its plot, which teased the audience with the characters having a happy ending, only to rip it away and throw them in prison, was kind of a downer.
I think it's gonna be okay. That girl just smiled at me.
Maybe because she knows you're going to jail.
But at a more fundamental level, the storyline also seemed to be oddly moralizing for a show that was never at all about morals. In fact, the show seemed to be judging, or arguably even calling out its audience for having enjoyed the less than upstanding escapades of its four central characters. The whole thing left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and the episode's legacy has been greatly about its status as a disappointment.
I heard some terrible things about it. Heard you it up.
After Seinfeld ended, Larry moved on to produce and star in Curb Your Enthusiasm, which debuted on what was then called HBO on October 17, 1999. Curb finds Larry playing a fictionalized version of himself, and like its predecessor, the show is obsessed with the minutiae of daily life and the awkwardness inherent in mostly ordinary social interactions. The fictional Larry is portrayed as a tactless crank who mostly surrounds himself with his equally brash friends, like his philandering manager Jeff Green and Larry's foul-mouthed friend Leon Black.
You are combined in this now with me, goddamn. We are Lego. We are a Lego set right now. We are interlocked together. We up.
The show was a massive hit for HBO and ran for an impressive 120 episodes over 12 seasons. During that time, the series repeatedly made references to Seinfeld and its poorly received finale, even to the point of centering its 7th season around a fictional Seinfeld reunion show that saw the return of the entire main cast, as well as some key guest stars. But even given that, Curb never seemed to be in conversation with Seinfeld as much as it was during its own season finale. Ironically titled No Lessons Learned, the Curb finale starts off just as the Seinfeld finale did, with its main characters all taking a trip together on a plane. Only this time, they were on their way to support Larry, who is being tried for violating a Georgia law that forbids people from providing water to anyone waiting in line to vote, an incident that happened in the season 12 premiere. Leon uses the trip as an excuse to begin binge-watching Seinfeld, which he's never seen before.
It's about time.
I'm gonna watch that. I'll tell you how it is.
I'm not really interested in your opinion.
It forms the basis of a gag that runs throughout and also gives the proceedings an amusing meta aspect that allows the episode to double as a coda to the Seinfeld finale as much as a series finale for Curb. And just like in the Seinfeld finale, Larry's trial is an excuse to bring back a string of beloved guest stars who testify to Larry's poor moral character, while also reminding viewers of some of the show's greatest hits moments.
Devoted sister, beloved.
It's a typo, don't you see?
Both trials end in a conviction, see their lead character carted off to prison, and both scripts had those imprisoned characters call back to dialogue from their series plot. Jerry and George again discussing the placement of sweater buttons in Seinfeld.
The second button is the key button. It literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it, it's too high. It's in no man's land.
And Larry again making note of his pants tent in Curb.
And women, they don't know what a pants tent is. They can lead to misunderstandings. They get confused.
In both cases, this last bit is thematically meant to drive home the point that no one ever really learns their lesson or changes for the better on either show. But Curb wasn't quite done yet, because while Seinfeld ended its series with its characters serving their sentence, on Curb, Larry was saved at the last minute by Jerry Seinfeld's observation that one of the trial jurors had broken their court-ordered sequestration.
He broke a sequester?
Broke a sequester.
He's supposed to sequester.
He's supposed to sequester.
He's a bad sequesterer.
You can't not sequester when you're supposed to
You
sequester.
should be sequestering.
Yeah.
The offense results in Larry's immediate release from prison, which Jerry, speaking from experience, says
You don't want to end up like this. Nobody wants to see it. Trust me.
it also leads the two to realize that they should have used a similar plot device to end the Seinfeld finale. Despite the title of the episode, Larry clearly did learn a few lessons from his earlier failure, and brought those lessons to bear in a way that made the Curb finale more emotionally resonant for audiences. Larry is on trial for doing something genuinely sympathetic, sparing the audience from being in the position of rooting for an a-hole who just stood by laughing at someone who is being violently robbed. And unlike the Seinfeld characters, who play almost no role in their own trial, Larry gets to affect the course of events by repeatedly shooting himself in the foot during the trial, making it a great regular episode of Curb as much as it was a great finale. Where the Seinfeld finale was a swing and a miss, the Curb finale was
Pretty good. Pretty good.
But what do you think? Were you a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm? And if so, do you think its finale was better than Seinfeld's? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.